Executing the wrong thesis perfectly still destroys value. The assumptions changed, the plan didn't. And that may be one of the largest risks sitting inside private equity portfolios today. Private equity firms re-underwrite debt. They re-underwrite valuations. They re-underwrite capital structures. They re-underwrite exit timing. But remarkably, few organizations re-underwrite the operating assumptions inside the value creation plan. And executing the wrong thesis perfectly still destroys value. Most value creation plans are built during diligence. The assumptions make sense. Growth, hiring, productivity, management structure, technology, margin, capital. The assumptions are reasonable at the time, but assumptions have expiration dates, and that deserves another look. Let's assume a company was acquired 3 years ago. Interest rates were different, labor markets were different, healthcare costs were different, technology was different, artificial intelligence barely existed, capital was cheap, hold periods were shorter, growth was easier. Today, different environment, same plan. The assumptions changed, the plan didn't. Imagine you're buying your company today, not 3 years ago, not during diligence, today. Would you build the same organization? Would you hire the same people? Would you create the same management layers? Would you deploy technology the same way? Would you prioritize the same initiatives? Would you invest in the same projects? Most executives answer honestly, and the answer is usually no. That should concern us. This isn't a criticism of management. This isn't a criticism of sponsors. This isn't a criticism of operating partners. The original assumptions may have been right. The problem is they may now be old, and old assumptions quietly destroy value. Some assumptions were correct. Hiring solved problems. Growth solved inefficiency. Capital was inexpensive. Labor was available. Administrative work was acceptable. Technology supported work. Those assumptions made sense. Then the environment changed. The assumptions changed. The plan didn't. Sponsors often ask, why isn't value creation happening faster? CFOs ask, why aren't initiatives producing results? Operating partners ask, why isn't management executing? Sometimes the issue isn't execution. Sometimes the issue is the thesis, because executing the wrong thesis perfectly still destroys value. Let's talk about labor. 3 years ago, growth justified hiring. Today, productivity justifies investment. 3 years ago, administrative work was accepted. Today, automation changed the economics. 3 years ago, technology supported employees. Today, technology replaces administrative work. 3 years ago, growth solved problems. Today, cash flow solves problems. The assumptions changed, the plan didn't. Now let's discuss economics. Suppose a management team spends 18 months executing initiatives that no longer move cash flow. The cost isn't effort, the cost is opportunity. The cost is delayed cash flow. The cost is lower EBITDA. The cost is enterprise value. The cost is another year of holding the asset. The cost is pursuing yesterday's priorities in today's market. That is not an execution problem. That's a capital allocation problem. And this becomes an ownership problem. Who owns re-underwriting the operation plan? The board? The sponsor? The CEO? The CFO? The operating partner? Most organizations assume someone owns this. Many organizations don't, and opportunities without owners often go untouched. Private equity firms revisit debt assumptions. They revisit valuation assumptions. They revisit exit assumptions. Perhaps operating assumptions deserve the same scrutiny because labor changed, technology changed, capital changed, healthcare changed, management changed, markets changed, the environment changed, the assumptions changed, the plan didn't. The market assumes companies miss opportunities because they lack information. I don't believe that's true. Most companies have smart people. Most companies have capable operating partners. Most CFOs understand cash flow. Most management teams understand operations. The problem isn't intelligence. The problem is assumptions. Successful assumptions become invisible, and invisible assumptions become risk. Here's the uncomfortable question. If you bought your company today, would you run the same value creation plan? Would you pursue the same initiatives? Would you organize labor the same way? Would you deploy technology the same way? Would you hire the same people? Would you measure the same KPIs? Would you prioritize the same projects? Or would you underwrite the business differently? Because private equity firms routinely re-underwrite investments, perhaps they should also re-underwrite operations, because the next turn of value may exist outside the original thesis. Not because the original thesis was wrong, because the environment changed and the assumptions changed. The plan didn't. Sometimes opportunities sit between functions. Sometimes they sit outside the organization chart. Sometimes they sit inside the largest expense in the business. Sometimes they sit inside assumptions nobody revisited. The question is not whether the company changed. The question is whether the assumptions changed. And if they did, who owns revisiting them? Because executing the wrong thesis perfectly still destroys value. My name is Preston Leahy, and that is why I am the go-to for payroll in private equity, nationwide, no exceptions, no rivals. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next video.